That is the question that will be on the ballot for the Alberta referendum. It states quite simply, do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province of Canada, yes or no?
Sydney Fizzard for Rebel News, coming to you from Calgary, Alberta, for a critical update on the province's separatist movement. This news comes by way of the Alberta Prosperity Project, or the APP, a nonprofit, nonpartisan educational society which seeks to initiate a successful secession referendum later this year. Today, Monday, May 12th, they held a press conference in downtown Calgary to present the question that they want to see on a referendum vote here in the province.
I am very proud to announce that we have an official referendum question for the referendum petition campaign that we would like to introduce today. So that is the question that will be on the ballot for the Alberta referendum. It states quite simply, do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province of Canada, yes or no?
I can see that the media is trying to describe this legislation as something it's not. It's a citizen initiative change that any petition can come forward. I gave some examples in the legislature yesterday. I would just encourage people to not look at this through an ideological lens. If you've got an issue that is important to you, that you think can garner the support of your fellow citizens, get out there, start a petition campaign. Once this legislation is passed, you have 120 days. You'll be able to, based on the previous voter turnout, you'd be able to get 177,000 signatures, and you can put it to the people in the next scheduled referendum election.
So we exceed the number that the new number from the Premier for the threshold so that we can hold the referendum for independence. So we're in a position to basically call the referendum as soon as the legislature is passed. We're well over 200,000 pledges. I don't think it's that far to get to 600,000 now that we have this kind of traction, because not only do we want to hold the referendum, we want to win the referendum too. And she's going to initiate the referendum. Then she'll represent Albertans for, she said if the vote goes the other way, she's going to represent Albertans. So I'm going to take her at her word.
We're pushing for a referendum this year. We think we can win one in October or November of this year.
Do you support the efforts to hold a referendum on Alberta separating from Canada?
I support the process of citizens being able to choose an issue that they care about and then being able to get enough signatures to put it to the people. And I guess we'll have to wait and see what comes forward on that.
And what is your personal position on Alberta separating from Canada?
My personal position is I believe in Alberta sovereignty within a united Canada.
She said she was going to give Ottawa 6 months. She says that she owes it to Albertans to give it 6 months. And then after that, she's going to decide. If she doesn't come over to our side, well, there's going to be a problem.
Well, and what do you mean by that?
Well, there's going to be a problem. She got 65% of her base and want her to pursue independence.
Canada is stronger when we work together. As an Albertan, I firmly believe that. You can always ask a question, but I know what I would respond clearly.
International law recognizes the express will of a people in just such a referendum, and it's cemented into law when other countries acknowledge that country's decision to become a sovereign nation. When Mr. Rath and I attended in Washington at the State Department, it started off with the State Department saying we are very much in support of Alberta sovereignty.
What will happen is once we're recognized as an independent nation and other nations will do the same thing, then negotiations will take place and Ottawa will go ahead and negotiate with Alberta.
The only question is whether Alberta will be negotiating with Canada, as a province of Canada within the Clarity framework, or whether we're going to be negotiating with Canada as an independent nation state. So I guess those are the two open questions that that are on the table right now.
The negotiations that will take place with the federal government and the other provinces are the negotiations as to what Alberta sovereignty is going to look like. And the interim constitution that we've drafted as a template will address all of those things during the negotiations.
And the messaging that we foresee coming out of the United States at the appropriate time, within the framework of this present U.S. administration are three things. One, a statement that the United States is supportive of Alberta self-determination. Two, that the United States will recognize an independent nation of Alberta upon the results of a successful referendum. referendum, and that 3, upon Alberta declaring its independence from Canada, that the United States will immediately enter into a free market, free trade agreement with the independent Commonwealth of Alberta, which would see 0 tariffs on both sides of the Alberta-US border and complete free trade with regard to all goods and services as between Alberta and the United States. We'll be able to double Alberta oil and gas production within the next 3 to 5 years. You know, because there's no doubt that with the agreements that are going to be structured with the new U.S. administration, we'll have 5 new pipelines down through Montana and 1 to the coast in through Idaho and Washington State if we want one. And on top of it, if we can tariff BC rail goods coming through Alberta to Ontario, I think negotiating a couple other pipelines through BC are going to be pretty easy too, as the nation state of Alberta, as opposed to the province of Alberta going on bended knee to federal bureaucrats within the within the central regulatory agencies of Canada.
Angus Reid just put out some polling that suggested 52% of Albertans would definitely vote to stay in Canada. How would you target them to get them to vote yes?
Well, I think once they understand the economics of it, I think it's going to be a pretty clear question. I think the whole problem with Alberta has been attacked and abused by Ottawa for so long that people here don't actually understand how much more it's costing them to live here than it would say they were somewhere else.
Alberta will become a nation state with the largest GDP per capita of any country in the world. There is nothing that Mark Carney can offer Danielle Smith that will be equal to what Albertans will give themselves when they vote yes to this question within the next 12 months.
Bill 54, this is what we think of you. You're garbage like that. This is treaty land.
And any talk of separation is really insanity.
There will be a robust revenue sharing agreement with Alberta First Nations that would see their revenues triple, if not greater, with regard to the wealth that will stay in Alberta instead of being looted out of the pockets of Alberta taxpayers by ungrateful politicians in Quebec who won't even let us have a pipeline through their province.
Once Alberta becomes an independent nation, then they'll be able to negotiate and be part of the wealth of Alberta. They will be able to take part in the revenues and the royalties. So their First Nations people will be far ahead of having to try and negotiate with Ottawa, because Ottawa hasn't done anything for them.
Here's a situation where I really feel strongly that we have an opportunity to help millions of people. And saving Alberta, I very much believe, may help save the rest of Canada.
Let us know in the comments, would you vote yes or no to the separatist question the Alberta Prosperity Project has put forward, and why? For Rebel News, I'm Sydney Fizzard. DoneGettingScrewed.com is where you have to go if you want to see updates on the separatist movement, fair coverage that you already know the federally government-funded mainstream media out of Ottawa isn't going to cover fairly. So if you want to see that, go to DoneGettingScrewed.com.